Hey guys, it's Tarkin coming at you with another game of Minecraft. Really, it's just wheat. I'm just gonna farm a little bit of wheat seeds real quick, and then we'll plant them. You know the drill. Probably have to mend the. Oh, actually, you know that's the life of a farmer. That's what it's all about. Fortunately, we happen to have a field with all the cows we could ever want. Sometimes more cows than you would want. That's just the sort of thing that happens. I sort of wish these people weren't in the field, but it is after all their village. Somebody suggested that I could plant something else. I think they were just joking, though. Like you could do a potato thing, which would be a great reveal. I'd be like, hey, been working on something, and everyone thinks it's gonna be, you know, like something not wheat related, and it's just like 10,000 potatoes. But I could never do that, you know. I wouldn't have the discipline to keep it secret, first of all. I would want to brag about it at the first opportunity. I'd say, oh, you think that's a lot of wheat? You'll never guess what I've been cooking up. Even more wheat, you would think, reasonably. Of course, the gathering of golems. They're all very important historical artifacts, though. You know, you can't just get rid of the golems because they're in your way. Where does it all end? Where, I wonder. But there we go. We'll just assume that we left the sword over here at home. You know, like we should have done. At home. The whole world's our home. The pets are in the little farmhouse. But here at Spawn, this is like, you know... This is my very first Minecraft home. Although I had originally made it out of wood. This is before I knew about lightning rods. But I had seen lightning burn something down. I think the roof is still wood. But also I was like, yeah, the wood, that'll be, you know, a bad building material. We need to rebuild it with granite. So that's what I did. It's a nice little house. I made a little rug, put a painting on the wall. Yeah, I know, right? Where's my sword? Here we go. We need to make another chest to put this junk into. Do I have any wood? I might. It's enough for one. And of course, since there are temporarily enough cows, we will reduce that. Normally we don't like stand up here. It's kind of interesting though, right? You know, you let them decide. Just a peaceful little day of culling the fold. Culling of the Fold, a December song. Hey, Orange Froggy. Yes, I'm a fan of wheat too. Of course, right now it's the culling of the fold, but you know, you do what you gotta do. Not really. I think they have to be sheep for it to be the culling of the fold. We'll ask the Decemberists about it. It is true that a meatball sandwich cannot be had without wheat. At least not as I perceive a meatball sandwich. Someone with a more broad view of the world, no doubt, could conceive of a meatball sandwich that wouldn't need wheat. But that is just a meatball burrito, I say. You put it on a corn tortilla, that's not a meatball sandwich. Not that a meatball on corn tortilla sounds bad. I bet it'd be delicious. I'm not so traditionalist that I can't see the idea of a good meatball variation as being something to be looked for. Still got... Oh yeah, the entity count would have changed too. I don't know where it is anymore. We'd probably have to put it on. How do we do that? Well, I sure preferred it when everything was exactly where I thought it was going to be. There it is. I just clicked on the wrong one. Alright, so there's like 1100. That's all fine. Yes. Hello, Froggy. But continuing in the lie that I'll one day do something else except wheat here. You know, one day we're gonna want all this leather to make more bookshelves. Froggy, you say, do I think that I have the world record wheat field? I do not. I do not think that. I've never looked into it. I just can't imagine that I have more wheat than anybody. Do I think there are like 10,000 people with more wheat than me? Probably not. But there's got to be someone out there who had this idea long before I came around into the Minecraft space and was like, you know what would be good? More wheat. I mean, because it's such a clearly great idea that it can't have been like, I can't be the only guy out there who sat down and said to yourself, self, what I desire is more wheat. You know, it's a very obvious thing to want. The world record is 400K? Nah, it's gotta be more than that, really? That's it? I'm not there, but I'm not very far. We've used 330,000 wheat seeds, but, you know, we've also mined lots of them, so we're only at like 210,000, 230, something like that. That's so small. Yeah, man, maybe I can get the record in a couple years. That would be pretty funny. I would have thought it would have been millions. I can't believe it's so reasonable. I gotta plant more wheat. But maybe mine won't count because I use spectator mode. No, I imagine the rules for the world record in wheat farming would hopefully be forgiven enough for my efforts. But yeah, no, certainly don't have the world record, but I mean, I gotta have like a top 10,000 number, right? Like my Celeste, like my Celeste 20%. But you know, maybe the person out there with like the most wheat just never talks about it at all, you know, like they move in shadows and silence. They know that wheat's its own reward, etc. But, like, I almost think, like, wouldn't it be a terrible thing for me to get that record, though? Like, do I want to do that to somebody? Do I want to have someone who used to have the most wheat, a goal I know is so great, and then, like, take it away from them? Is that who I want to be, you know? You did some more research, and it's way more than that? It's more research. The record's actually 268k and the 400k one was fake? No, that's so close to where I'm at. That's so close. Cause, so stat-wise, you know, we've mined 86k wheat seeds and we've used 330,000. And that's like the bedrock that I use, you know, for my calculations, right? For like what we've done it, because we've used the whole, you know, 450,000 times, but that's also like, you know, breaking other stuff, planting other stuff, etc., and so on. But yeah. So I guess, yeah. We're not super far off of there, yeah, because 330k minus 86 is, you know, just a couple tens of thousands away. Well, then, you know, maybe one day I will have the most wheat in the world. I gotta start eating more vegetables. You know, I've always wanted to be better than everybody else, but I never, you know, on account of being a person, I've never been better than everybody at anything. But if I'm, like, for one day, the champion of wheat, that would be pretty cool. But, like, again, like, I bet I would rouse the previous record holder to fury and anger. Did I ever expect to be this close to the world record? No, I never knew what the world record was. I assumed it was considerably more than that. Because, I mean, 270 grand, like, anybody can do that. I mean, I almost did it. No, that'll be a nice goal. And honestly, you know, that maybe that's when I can finally play the game and learn how to beat the game on easy. No, I beat the game once on hardcore, and objectively, that's actually more impressive, right, than knowing how to beat the game actually. Because that showed heart, right? Like, when I lost World 334 to the Ender Dragon, or more properly to shooting an Ender Crystal with a bow at point blank range, like, that showed courage too. But I had never gone before, and, you know, the courage you need to face the dragon when you haven't seen the dragon is less than you need to go back in your next hardcore world. Well, the next one that we didn't die in earlier. And go face the dragon again. So maybe, you know, maybe the reason we die to the blazes is because beating the dragon any more times will devalue the heroism, right? Maybe it will be my fate to plant more wheat than anyone, but to only ever beat the game once. So you seriously can't find anything else in a super wheat farm except for the concept that was never executed. Yeah, because people have said in like other streams and comments and stuff that like, I guess there's a very prominent YouTuber of the past who did, maybe it was carrots, maybe it was potatoes, and I guess like maybe somebody did melons. But I hadn't heard of these things until I had already, you know, started on the wheat field. Although, of course, it was a pale shadow of what it is now. But in a way that makes me happy because it means that, you know, like a legendary feat might be achieved, and that's pretty cool, you know. I mean, I did know that it was a pretty big wheat field. I wasn't unaware. What made me start this journey? I thought it was pretty. I actually started the wheat field. The very first video would have been in August of last year, called Field of Reasonable Size. And but before then, this world was on peaceful, so I didn't even need, you know, the bread, and I didn't, at the point when I started, know how villagers worked with inducing more of them to reproduce and so on, so I didn't need the wheat for anything. I just thought it was pretty. And where the farmhouse is, that's where I started the wheat field, basically on the banks of the river there by that village, and then I just grew more and more, and then eventually I did find out what I could use bread for, and there's a whole complicated history with that village. All the villagers were eradicated in the wink of an eye back in the day when we converted the world from Bedrock to Java. So yeah, and then I planted wheat, and then I planted more and more and more. And then the real thing that kicked off the wheat field in the biggest way, because I'd sort of been done, but there was a skeleton horse event. Virtually a Bedrock player? Yeah. Like I said, you know, I started in June of last year. In Java, you have to fill out like a little form. You have to get an account, right? And you'll recall, you'll recall that I despise filling out forms. So basically, I was gonna play Java, and then Bedrock didn't make me fill out a form, so I played Bedrock instead. But then the longer I played, and like I would be like, hey, why don't I have access to this, you know, this debug screen like people are talking about in these videos, and that kind of thing. Because I didn't watch like Minecraft content, but I did watch like speedrun documentary and like, you know, video game cheating documentary content. So I did, although I didn't know like really how Minecraft worked, I did like know the word blazes and blaze rods and ender pearl and stronghold. I didn't know what any of that meant or like how to find it in game or anything like that. But so like I'm aware of the concept of like hitting F3 and using something to like use like a calculator. I haven't watched these videos in a long time. It's like you throw the thing that's going to seek for the stronghold, right? And then you like put the cursor on a specific thing, and then from the angle you can use math and figure out where the other one's going to be or whatever. So like I abstractly understand these concepts, but that was one of the things, because I was like, hey, how do I figure out where I am? Or I was always getting lost, and you know, the compass could lead me home, but like I would be lost in other places too, like down under the earth. I would just be like, I got turned around. Like if I could just see my coordinates, you know. And that was really what made me want to move over to it. But I miss some stuff about Bedrock. Bedrock had native controller support, because I used to play almost exclusively with the controller. And Bedrock had, like, tabs organization for the crafting menu, and I like that too. What specifically do I hate about filling out forms? Oh, the feeling in my brain. It's just like so very present whenever I have to fill out a form. And now this Java has controller support soon. Cool. Yeah, I actually looked on like on CurseForge or whatever. I think it was on Curse that I was looking at, not Nexus, for controller mods for Minecraft once upon a time. But I ended up basically not seeing any that looked like... I think I tried like one or two and they didn't work, or there's something else. Maybe they had a dependency. So that was the extent of the Minecraft modding. But that would have been like right whenever I went over to Java. Will I fill out a form if it's for a legal purpose? That's basically the only time I'll fill out a form. Like, if I literally have to. But if you gave me a bunch of forms and were like, you have to fill all these out or the cops are gonna come for you someday, I would probably just get arrested. It's very unlikely that I would do it. Like, I would want to, but I probably wouldn't do it. I really don't like filling out forms. So, story time. So, in high school, I was a National Merit finalist, right? And to get National Merit semifinalist, that's like, in my head, that's the hard part, right? You know, you just gotta, like, do really good on a test. But for finalists, you had to, like, fill out all these forms and, like, go talk to your teachers and get these testimonial things and, like, blah blah blah, and like, man oh man was I ever not gonna do it. And then basically, like, one of the teachers that I knew, she basically got all the forms filled out. She just like got all the junk done for me. Like, I wrote my own essays and stuff, but she's like, look, I know that you are not going to do it. I know that you won't. I know that as soon as it said that you needed to get a typewriter and type it onto this piece of paper, that you were never going to do it. And by the way, that was the format back then. It was like, you literally had to like I couldn't use the computer even, because the year was 2003 and things were very old then. But yeah, so that's how I became a National Merit finalist, you know. My teachers would have said that I did the work, but really, she did all of it, because if she didn't fill out that form, I never would have gotten it, because I would not have done it myself. I didn't even tell my parents that I got semi-finalist, because I didn't want them to make me fill out the forms later. I've always hated forms. I hate them much more now than, like, whenever I was young, but I hated them then, too. I hated basically anything that presented an imposition on my time. Whenever I was growing up, I never felt like I had enough time to do what I wanted to do, which was play video games. And as children often do, I, you know, told anyone who will listen, like, when I'm an adult, I'm not going to do any of this. all I'm gonna do is play video games and work some job and play video games. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, kid. But, like, I was telling the truth. I don't mind taking tests. Tests are different than forms, because you get to show off. Something like that. Once I didn't file my taxes for like 3 years. This is fine to admit because the government owed me money, right? Like, I had overpaid on my taxes. As soon as I filed, they were going to give me thousands of dollars back. They were holding on to it. No matter what, they're going to give me this money. I didn't do it for a couple of years. And you like, I couldn't have gotten in trouble because, again, you only get in trouble for not filing if you owe them money. They still want you to do it. But to answer your question, sometimes no. Sometimes I would, and I'm not like a wealthy guy. I could have used that money, but I didn't have to have it. I actually didn't end up filing those taxes until I needed surgery on my hands, where I literally had to have the money. And that was when I finally did it. So basically, when it was a matter of life and death. Not even a matter of a lot of money. Yeah, Froggy, I'm like a crazy person. I don't like to mention it all the time because people want to, like, argue with me about it or say I'm not supposed to say that or whatever. But yeah, I'm not like a normal guy. How long did it take to do the taxes? Oh, I don't know, 8 minutes. But again, I'm not like a normal guy. When you ask, like, simple questions like that, it'll often seem like the way that I perceive the world is dramatically out of proportion. It is. But I try not to let it bother me too much. It's like the line in that Tally Hall song says, maybe there's something to being the one who you are. 'Cause I think that a lot of sadness in my life has been caused by, trying to be somebody else. Which sort of is like a trite generalization, right? So I'll elaborate a little bit. Not like, oh, I don't want to be who other people want me to be, but like just trying to be a different kind of person than I am entirely. Not like a different form of myself, but like, like, how could I ever be someone who fills out forms? It's only going to frustrate me to try to be. And if I just don't do it, I feel so fine. It's only the tension between what I am not and what's expected of me that causes me distress. And that's perhaps somewhat self-serving, because what it can devolve into when I'm lazy is, if it bothers me, I'll just ignore it, and this is enlightenment. But that's not really what I'm trying to say. Would I like to get over it? The only fear I've ever conquered is my fear of fire. I used to be afraid of being burned, but after many, many years in the kitchen, now I just hate, being burned. Who wouldn't? But I'm not, like, afraid. I used to be, like, pretty apprehensive about, like, even reaching into an oven with oven mitts. But would I like to get over this fear of forms? I mean, I would like to not have any fears at all. I would rather be rid of my fear of, like, being in cars. The form one mainly just annoys other people, as you know, as rude as it is to say, I guess. Like, mainly it just bothers other people who are like, why can't you just be normal? But the car thing really does mess with my life. Like, if I wasn't so afraid to be in cars and drive and stuff, I could do a lot more things that I would enjoy. It's certainly a debilitating thing, but you know, I've lived with it for many years. I wasn't always afraid to be in cars, but basically, I developed it as a young man, and it never went away. I think, Froggy, the root of the form thing is that I strongly dislike the mere idea that somebody is gonna, like, treat me like I'm somebody else. And any form represents philosophically the idea that they're going to measure me up against an abstraction, not like a right or a wrong answer. A test is different than a form. A test is comparing me to the right answer, whereas a form is trying to make me seem like I'm somebody else, just an interchangeable guy, and that they can analyze based on what's on the form. There's nothing of me in there, and I have, like, this revulsion for the idea that somebody could capture my essence with the information that is available about me. Like, I despise it. Like, my poet's heart is in revolt at the idea. But basically, it just messes with my self-concept. Just making a Google account count as filling out a form. Yeah, like signing up for whatever thing for an email or whatever does count as filling out forms, which is why I very often don't sign up for new things. But, how was it for me to make my channel? It was super easy. The person I was living with at the time did it for me. I was like, man, I think it would be cool to use this computer to stream. I just, like, I'm not gonna fill out that form. I guess I just won't do it. And she was like, or you could shut up and I'll do it in like 10 minutes. And then, yeah, you know, the rest is history. But sometimes people think like, oh, I'll just wait for someone to do something for me. That's not what's going on. I'll wait the rest of my life. Is it considered some sort of illness? I doubt it. Something like editing the stream title and description. That one's fine, because those are descriptive, right? The quality and the bitrate, that's all like saved things, so I can just pull it in and like where it's at. But yeah, no, that's that doesn't count. That's more just like organizing a system. Organizing things are fine. Like a form about a book is not the same as a form about me. So, like, I could sit at the library and, you know, do data entry for whatever, and that's fine. So you're the hurricane outside and your power surviving? Oh, that's right, you got, like, a nor'easter going on there. I was reading about that in the paper. Well, I hope everything stays well for you and those around. Yeah, I guess there's a state of emergency declared about it. In the paper. I was reading a paper on the internet. You know, so, a website. You had to go to work too, man. And the power went out. Yeah, there. So I live in Arkansas, right? And we have tornadoes here, and I'm not afraid of them, but many people are. But I got like a healthy respect or whatever. But it's just like you're just like everybody just like sort of expects you to like ignore that there's a tornado unless the sirens are actively on. It's just like, if you hear on the news there's going to be some tornadoes, what that means to an Arkansan is just go on about your business. It's sort of like how a person in upstate New York would react to the news that it's gonna snow. Here, of course, if it snows like 4 inches, often the schools will close and no one will go anywhere. So, sounds like I'm doing a bit. It's all real. Always wanted to go storm station to see a tornado. Oh, well. Yeah. I'm sure it'd be interesting. I've seen a funnel cloud a time or two, but I've never gone out trying to catch one. They're man, they're really something. They really are. Because sometimes you could just... If you haven't been around a tornado, it's impossible to really, like, capture how strange the air becomes. It feels like there's almost like the static electricity going on, and it gets, like, pale and yellow, almost like it feels like right after, like, in a total eclipse, if you're familiar with that sort of feeling. And then the wind just starts getting weirder, and you look up and you see just one cloud, and you're like, wait, and then it's just like spinning, and then you're like, oh man, oh man, oh man, and then you're like bolting to get into the bathroom and like throwing a couple of blankets over your head in the bathtub and thinking, man, if I had got a mattress in here, that'd be a lot smarter. And then most of the time, nothing happens to you. And sometimes it does, and there's really, you know, that's the tornado time. That's a tornado, all right. But there's much better siren coverage now than whenever I was young. Get a lot of eclipses in the East Coast. Well, you know, I think you'll find if you look at a map that there are parts of the world due to the rotation of it that tend to get more in certain time periods, and that you're not wrong for noting that. There are many parts of the country that almost never get eclipses if memory serves. Just because of like what I can describe as the angles, you know, and if you move your hand around in front of your face, that'll give the appearance of motion. Man, I can't believe I'm so close to the world record. I mean, I can believe it. I mean, I can believe it. But, you know... Because Wheat Mountain here, like, it's so expansive. When you see it from the side of the original wheat field, you don't perceive that it's really a huge mountain. Because the other side of Wheat Mountain is just very small compared to this side of it. The eclipse from last year was cool. Yes, it certainly was. I took off work for it. I think they are, I think they're just very, for lack of a better word, spiritually moving events. Like this experience that's so relatively unique to everyday life. And of course all life is like that, you know, we're a world unto ourselves. But on this day, that uniqueness is shared by everyone. You know, when there's like a total eclipse and the world goes dark, like we all have that in common. Like the wonder of it. And in a lot of ways I feel like they're the only events capable of doing that to people that aren't disasters. Because it's you know, the older you get, the more people you don't talk to anymore. People that were dear to you in the past, people that you don't talk to anymore because you made mistakes, or they did, or there's bitterness or whatever. A lot of complicated feelings. The more people you know. But like on the day of the eclipse, I always feel like I can be sure what all my old friends are doing, and that they're doing the same thing I am and feeling the same way that I am about it, and I just really like the experience for that reason. And it's sort of also like a great just like connection to the past, you know, because we have this event that we can be sure evoked the same wonder and connectedness throughout all of human history, something that never could have been ignored, that must have struck everyone with like the majesty and the power of the moment. Oh, hey Luke. You got like an 80-90, yeah. The totality is really something, and it's just really special. Really, really near total ones are very awesome too, but yeah, I was glad that it was right in the path. The people traveled for miles and miles around, because Central Arkansas was like basically right in the band of it. So people in a lot of states, you know, they'll make a trip of it. I'm sure it happens worldwide, where people will, you know, make a trip of it to get better seats. But you know, if I had to drive 10 hours to go, then I wouldn't be able to have such a good time. Wait to say hello. Comment. Is that coming around again soon? Again, I mean, it hasn't happened in my lifetime. I'm not like a real space guy. I'm more of a, I've read the books for kids about space guy, you know, but that is a comet I know. That's the one we all know, right? 40 years ago, I was like, yeah, I remember like being a kid and thinking, ooh, that'll be cool, and then I'll be like, wait, I'll be an old man. But because it would have been a long time since I thought about it. Of course, like, to me, at the age of 6, an old man could have been as old as I am now. Which, I mean, to be fair, I am very old. Yeah, because it's what, like, I don't remember right off the top of my head, but it's like more than 100 years, right? between times generally. But I am not any kind of expert. I didn't even take astronomy in high school. I don't know if they offered it. They probably did. I'm already an old man. No, if the accident will and I'm still kicking around in that amount of time, I'm sure I'll have the world record by then. Yeah, you know. 34 years. And Froggy, even you'll be partway to being an old lady frog by then. Life is very long, you know. Nobody knows what they're going to be changed into by the future, but hopefully we'll all be able to check out the comment as it comes. Once in a lifetime, you just know it's going to be overcast a day. No, don't talk like that. We'll just have to get... you'll get a hot air balloon. That's what you'll do. We'll all get hot air balloons where we live, and then we'll be able to go above the clouds and, like, mount a thing there. Right, you ask if I take a look at your channel before. I feel like maybe... But it's like, if it was Geometry Dash videos and stuff, then maybe, like, you know, I've clicked on stuff like that and watched them, but it's like, I don't know how people watch it. You got anything on there you think I should check out? But yeah, Luke, I don't know if you were around earlier when I was saying, but apparently the world record for a wheat field is like in striking distance. I guess no one's got more. Like, there used to be a 400,000 wheat world record, but it was fake. So it's like 268K is the record. How long until it disintegrates into nothing? Probably a bit, unless it gets hit by stuff, right? Yeah. Because we're just like a couple dozen thousand away. A couple dozen thousand. That's a way you can talk about thousands. Losing masses goes where it never tell. Yep, fair enough. And, you know, as the only thing that I know about physics goes, entropy increases in a closed system. No. I took chemistry, I didn't take physics. I was like, this is all real math, isn't it? I'm like, I'll do chemistry, and then I'm like, what do you mean this is full of real math too? It was easier than the physics math, though. I know it was. Say sometimes make fully edited videos, and then you don't talk as much. Yeah, you know, that can be definitely a tricky thing. Of course, I often just play badly. But every now and then, because I very rarely play a game that's not on stream at all anymore, right? Like I'm always streaming it essentially. But like my 24 Fear of Hades run, because I was just testing out the build, and then I was like, I got to the end, and I was like, oh, I guess I should record this. But several times in the run, I was thinking, you know, I'm a lot better at this game than I am if I'm trying to think about talking. Only hard part of the math you didn't count was doing the math on at the least mechanical balance. Yeah, in like Chem for Majors, there's like some titration stuff that's like a little tricky, but like in general you have to be in like the like physical chemistry to have to do the math that's hard. Because even the chem classes that people often think of as being like, I had to take whatever, like organic, you don't do math in organic. You don't. I mean, if you're doing like highly advanced organic, you would, but you don't, like in Orgo 1 and 2 that, you know, that all the doctors have to take. Like they don't have to do math in there. Lecturing on configuration sec. Oh, wait until you learn that there's 3 models and so maybe it's just long exposure to physics, but it doesn't get you anymore. Yeah, you know, I didn't have a background at all. One of my aunts, who I'm very fond of, but she was a school teacher, but of mathematics and such. But basically, like, I wanted to be like good at math only until I was like 7, and then I was like, this is boring. I don't know what. Like, I often felt that way about basically any academic pursuit that didn't grip me. I'm like, I mean, obviously, like, I wanted to be, like, good enough at math to, you know, do whatever was going on and, like, you know, to figure out the optimal package in the Oregon Trail. But, like, you know, to me, math was about being able to figure out what I should do in a video game. And not, like, you know, whenever, like, people that, like, are into math talk about, like, how interesting the complexities and stuff are, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I just need to know if these bonuses are going to make this building practical to buy or not, you know. I want to know if my medium tanks for the Allies in Command & Conquer Red Alert are going to match up well against the Titanic tanks of the Soviets. Spoiler, they don't. 3 models and they're all inaccurate. Yeah, there you go. Never do any heat transfer math. Oh god, don't let me lie to you. My last chem class would have been 15 or 16 years ago. Probably not. I don't think we did any like thermodynamic math at all. Didn't model the convection off of a cylindrical cow. No, did not. I'm actually not familiar with the cylindrical cow. I only know perfectly spherical cows. Which... I said something along those lines the other week at work, and someone looked at me like I was a mutant. I'm like, you know, the perfectly spherical cows that don't have air resistance? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's got its own Wikipedia page. I assume it does. I'm like, I can't believe I'm having to explain this very mainstream joke to you. And it's not a joke. It's how it's taught. I learned the reference from my friends who were doing the math in the course of becoming engineers and such. Are you saying if you had more viewers, then you think it would be easier on you? Yeah, you know, I'm not always very reactive with chat, right? Like anyone who knows me in real life knows that, like, my tendency to monologue is not unique to this format. Like, I'm a real monologuing guy. Like, I would have to make sure not to do it if I was a villain. They would catch me out that way by asking me what my plans were. But I can talk for like 15 minutes off of one prompt, basically all day long. And in fact, often will. Someone will say something and I'll talk about it for ages, and then I'll be like, oh, what was I talking about before I started talking about this? I can usually trace it back. But sorry you're usually not getting viewers on your stream. Must be frustrating. You know, it's weird. Sometimes people ask, like, for advice or whatever, which is, I know isn't what you're doing here, but it's like just it's so weird to think that anybody watches me at all. Orange sherbet vanilla bean ice cream. Nice. That's like that was a classic one whenever I was a kid. Well, not vanilla bean ice cream. It was just plain old vanilla ice cream. We'd have the big old like gallon plastic tubs. We would have like an orange sherbet one and a vanilla one. I would swirl it up. Opinion on AI. I question if its benefits are going to outweigh the capacity it has for being misused. Like, think back, if you wish, to my impassioned defense of the beauty of eclipses earlier. A computer could have written that. It didn't, though. Like, that was me thinking about the people I've known, and at some point, like, the impact of interaction is based on the perceived authenticity of the emotion behind it. And I feel like people are preparing themselves to be done a grave disservice. The form of the thing is not the same as the thing itself. The beauty of poetry and sculpture and art is because of the way that the soul of humanity flows from it into us. It's because it represents, in one of its most pure forms, the beauty of human existence, what makes us special. And you can see that in a great work of art, or in a bad one. And in a kind of crummy song, you can still tell a lot about a person, you know. Maybe they have heart, maybe they're punk rock, you know. Maybe they don't have a good singing voice. You know, maybe shake a tambourine, and when you sing, I'll sing harmony, that kind of thing. If you don't know Front Bottom's Twin Size Mattress, that's a good song. But what ultimately drives the iterations of artificial intelligence will be the motive of profit or the motive of control. Usually some element of both of them. It will not be to benefit people's lives. It will be for the benefit of whoever is controlling that iteration of it. And in that I see... Do I just do the Orwell thing again? If you want to see a vision of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. Any bad thing you can do more efficiently with the help of a computer. And I think people that imagine that memes and high school assignments will be the worst that they have to put up with this are not being doomer enough about it. I think there could be many, I think there are many interesting and indeed good things that could come from it. I do not think that will be the dominant result from it culturally, technologically, politically. It's like, if you machine learn political repression, now you don't have to pay anybody to sift through everyone's social media posts, right? You get the computer to do it. And then you have like a middle manager check to see who you want to disappear. This is not an abstraction. This is absolutely currently being done on planet Earth today. And it will continue. The better the models get, the easier it'll be. Indian Southern optimistic pestilence. Yeah, the presence of like the glossary of terms in the back of it is written in such a way that is hopeful. Yes. But, of course, the regime of Oceania in 1984 is expressly not invincible. That's why they have to do what they have to do. Or rather, why they have to do what they choose to do. Nobody's making them do what they do. But once on the course, they must continue. Because, once you've set down the road of the chocolate ration, you have to keep providing it. You have to tell people that it hasn't gone down, but you can't just have no chocolate ration at all forever. Not without a war. You can do anything then, which is why they oscillate wildly between East Asia and Eurasia. And have always been at war with one, as we know. But man, I love that book so much. This will be a weird story. I'm going to tell it anyway. So once upon a time, my friend visited briefly North Korea. He was in China, and then it was one of those things where you're on like a bus like that the Chinese government has or whatever, and you just like sort of, you know, the bus goes into the land of North Korea for a brief moment or whatever, and then you go back over home or whatever. And he had messaged me. He's like, well, I'm gonna be in North Korean land for a bit. Do you want me to say anything for you? And I said, yeah. Say it was a cold morning in April and the clocks were striking 13. And he did that for me, so somebody dropped a 1984 line in North Korea for my benefit. Hey, Average Sonic. Just one day this will be the world record wheat field. I never dreamed to believe it until Froggy told me the shockingly small number of wheat that had been planted by the world record holder. No offense. No offense to them. I'm sure they worked very hard. But knowing that I'm just like within 20% of it, maybe even a little closer, I'm just like, man, it's not even that big of a wheat field, is it? Barely any. I'm like 268K? What? Like, I actually thought it was going to be millions. I thought for sure the first person to have gotten the record would never be able to put down the farming implements and the wheat seeds. I thought for sure they would have to keep on, you know? How could anybody stop? But yeah, you know, it's just some wheat. Because you'd think it'd be more, but then you realize I cheated by not even taking over the farms, or making the farm in the forest, but there's like a lore reason for it, right, you know? Because this village, we built it up. This is the village of scholars. No one lived here after the great catastrophe of world conversion. But yeah, that's the wheat field. Well, the wheat field so far. One day we'll have more. But yes, the tail of the tape. 332K planted and 86K mined. So, you know, we're getting there. We're sure getting there. Little by little. Oh man, what a party we'll have that day. We'll hang around and plant wheat. There's something to say. You're on a third all-nighter in a row. Well, consider sleeping. Thanks for stopping in. We're about to end this one here. Think you can low-key move things to your mind. We'll make sure that you don't move anything dangerous. Just do like Matilda level stuff, right? So, as we end today, I want to share with you this from the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. This is book 7, number 27. Treat what you don't have as non-existent. Look at what you have, the things you value most, and think of how much you'd crave them if you didn't have them. But be careful. Don't feel such satisfaction that you start to overvalue them. That would upset you too much to lose them. Just a bit of good advice from Marcus there. After all, I wouldn't want to lose this world of wheat. That would be very sad. I might, probably need to back this up. This world, I probably need to. I mean, like, I have a backup on this hard drive, but I probably need to get like a Faraday cage box, right? I'll just get a little Faraday cage, and then I'll keep a USB with the Minecraft world on it. And then after the bombs, Great December song, After the Bombs, when people come and try to piece everything together, they'll be like, oh, maybe this is going to be like the instructions for rebuilding society. And it's just wheat. It's just wheat. Which is good enough instruction for society, I think. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed, guys. That's all I've got right now. I'm going to go to bed. I'll be up in the morning, probably going to try to take over China, or at least see how old a bandit queen can get. But, just a couple more days of work. Indeed, Luke. It is sort of a guide. But yeah, just a couple more days of work, and then I'll be on my vacation. So, be 9 days of me hanging out here and streaming and playing games. I'm very much looking forward to it. So that'll be some good times, and hopefully I'll see you guys for some of that. Anyway, good night, everybody. Sonic, really hope you get some good sleep. And Froggy, Luke, see you guys later.